Okay, now we're going to look at veins of the lower body. And again, I'm going to start out and work my way up towards the heart. So if we look carefully here, you'll see a small vein here on the right side and a small vein here on the left side. Those are the gonadal veins. Gonads meaning either testes or ovaries. So they drain the gonads. And you'll notice they're not symmetrical. So the right gonadal vein dumps directly into this big vessel here, which is called the IVC, or inferior vena cava. You learned about that vessel because you know it dumps into the heart directly. It feeds into the right atrium. So the right gonadal vein dumps directly into the IVC, whereas if you look at the left side, the left gonadal vein attaches to something called the renal vein. As you know, ren means kidney, so the renal veins drain the kidneys, and it happens to be the case on the left side that the left gonadal vein drains into the renal vein, which then drains into the inferior vena cava. And you'll note also here are some hepatic veins. They drain the liver. This is going to be really important. The liver helps to filter blood. And so it's important that you realize that a lot of your blood will enter your liver at any given time to be filtered. And then after that filtering has taken place, that adjusted or cleansed blood, if you want to think of it that way, will be drained by the hepatic veins, which then dump directly into the inferior vena cava. All right, so let's just do one quick tracing problem. Let's think about draining the ovaries. So to drain the right ovary, you would go from the right gonadal vein directly into the inferior vena cava and all the way up to the right atrium of the heart. To drain the left ovary, or testes, don't want to be sexist, to drain the left ovary, you would go through the left gonadal vein, into the left renal vein, into the inferior vena cava, and then up to the heart. All right, the trickiest thing about veins is learning something called the hepatic portal system. I've emphasized that veins drain, so think of arteries as feeders. They feed your tissues, and veins typically drain your tissues. They drain that deoxygenated blood from your tissues. There's an exception though, and this is called a portal system. You have another portal system in your body as well. You might recall the hypothalamus and the pituitary. This portal system is called the hepatic portal system. Portal means enter. And remember, that's unique for veins, right? Veins usually pull blood out of organs. They drain organs. It's unusual for a vein to enter or feed an organ. The hepatic portal system is just that. It's an entrance into the liver system. So hepatic means liver and portal means entrance. And this is very important. We're talking about blood coming from your intestines and your stomach, and also some nearby organs such as your spleen and, not pictured here, your pancreas. Pancreas would be right here along that vessel there. So all of these organs, as blood drains from them along veins, all of those veins converge into something called the hepatic portal vein, and then that blood will go into the liver and be filtered. So let me give you an example of why this would be necessary. Let's imagine you have dinner. Let's imagine your dinner is a chocolate cake. Hopefully you would never eat a whole cake, but let's just imagine you did. That means your blood sugar levels are going to skyrocket, and your body has to maintain homeostasis and prevent a massive blood sugar surge in your blood. So what will happen is, as blood is drained from your stomach, that blood will end up in the hepatic portal system, in your liver, and your liver will filter that blood, remove excess sugar, and put it into storage for later, for the next time you have low blood sugar levels. After that blood has been filtered and that excess sugar is removed, then, not depicted here, but behind the liver, you would find hepatic veins draining the liver and dumping directly into the inferior vena cava. All right, so let me point out the various veins I expect you to know for the hepatic portal system. this vein right here, and it would go all the way over to the spleen behind the stomach there. That's called the splenic vein. And the splenic vein drains the spleen. It also has some drainage from the stomach. Down here is the inferior mesenteric vein, and you'll notice the inferior mesenteric vein dumps directly into the splenic vein. The inferior mesenteric vein drains the latter part of the large intestine, so the descending colon, the sigmoid colon, and the rectum. All of that is drained by the inferior mesenteric vein, which then leads to the splenic vein, which then leads to the hepatic portal vein and the liver. All right, the other vein I want you to know is this large one right here, called the superior mesenteric vein. And the superior mesenteric vein, as the diagram indicates, drains the small intestine. It also drains the first parts of the large intestine, including the ascending colon and also the transverse colon. All of those vessels of the superior mesenteric vein will dump into the hepatic portal vein, which will lead to the liver, and again, filtration will happen, and then the liver will be drained by the hepatic veins. So let me do a tracing problem with you to make sure that you're following this. Let's imagine we're following blood from the descending colon. Blood from the descending colon will be drained by the inferior mesenteric vein, which will lead to the splenic vein, which will lead to the hepatic portal vein, to the liver. Liver will do the filtration. Then the hepatic veins will drain the liver, and they dump right into the inferior vena cava, which leads up to the heart. Let's do one more. Let's imagine we're talking about blood being drained from the small intestine. From the small intestine, blood will be in the superior mesenteric vein, into the hepatic portal vein, into the liver for filtration, then to the hepatic veins, then to the inferior vena cava. So, portal system is probably the trickiest part of veins to figure out. All right, let's finish up by looking at the veins of the lower body. Let's imagine that we're in the thigh. If we're in the superficial thigh, we'll most likely get drained by a vein called the great saphenous vein. It's a huge, long vein. It's the longest vein in your body. It actually extends all the way down to the foot. So, the great saphenous vein, which again is the longest vein in your body, and it extends from your foot all the way up the leg, all the way up the thigh. Now, I don't particularly need you to know the great saphenous vein for the purposes of tracing problems, but I would like you to know its clinical importance. The great saphenous vein is near the surface, so there's easy access during a surgery, and it's often used to harvest pieces of it for heart bypass surgery. So let's say you've got a blockage in your heart and you're lacking some blood flow to some part of the heart. A surgeon can go into your thigh or leg, remove a piece of the great saphenous vein, and then stitch on that little piece of great saphenous vein onto your heart to act as a bypass for blood, bypassing the area that's not getting the blood flow that it needs. All right, another vein in the thigh, in the deep thigh, is the major vein of the thigh, which is the femoral vein, and it drains the deep thigh. And if we follow the femoral vein up, we'll see it leads to the external iliac. And if you follow the external iliac up, it leads to the common iliac. And the two common iliacs, left and right, merge to form the inferior vena cava. Note there's also an internal iliac, and it's going to drain some of the deep organs in the pelvis.